What if laughter was a curse, a lethal, contagious force that transfers from the victim to the killer? This is the harrowing confession of a law enforcement officer who, after shooting a suspect,
discovered he had inherited the man's deadly affliction, an uncontrollable, torturous laugh that is driving him to the brink of insanity and death.
I'm not sure where else to turn, so here it goes. I'm hoping someone on here has experience with uncontrollable laughing, because this is pure torture. My body aches. My head's pounding from dehydration. My throat's so raw it started bleeding, and I've cracked several ribs. I called 911, but they think it's a prank. It started 5 days ago.
My partner, Kate, and I pulled up to our last liquor store of the day before our shift ended. We work in alcohol beverage control, a law enforcement job. Though we carry weapons, in 12 years, I had never once discharged my gun outside of a range. Until 5 days ago. It should have been a run-of-the-mill license check, but I sensed something was off immediately. The Mexican lunch special I'd eaten a few hours earlier felt like it was staging a revolt in my stomach.
We heard shouting as soon as we stepped out of the vehicle. "Should I call it in?" Kate asked. I shook my head, wanting to gauge the situation. Fights are common enough in liquor stores, but it took a moment to figure out what was odd about this one. Only one person was shouting. The other person was laughing.
The sun was still bright, so I could only see reflections in the windows. But when I stepped into the shade of an old oak, the picture inside became chillingly clear. The laughing was coming from a man in a hoodie. He clutched his ribs with one hand, the other aiming what appeared to be a gun at the clerk. "Gun!" I hissed. "Call it!" Kate rushed to the car to radio for backup as I crouched and crept closer. It wasn't the situation that made me nauseous. It was the laugh. Even muffled through the door, it sounded completely unhinged. I could hear Kate informing units of a suspected armed robbery. The glint of the sunshine off the vehicle's window must have caught the guy's attention because he turned and looked outside. He was a clean-cut white guy with blonde hair in his late 20s, with a patchy, stubble-filled beard. Through the torrent of laughter, he looked strangely relieved, like he was glad we'd shown up. He made for the exit. Kate returned to my side, gun drawn, just as the guy stepped out. Without the glass buffer, the sight and sound were so much worse.
His mouth hung open like a scream frozen in time. Tears streamed down his cheeks, his eyes crimson with burst blood vessels. His skin was so red from the strain it looked sunburned. And that laugh, not a drunk's chuckle, but a dying clown's shriek. It was shrill and wheezy, broken only by painful gasps for breath. "Drop the weapon!" I yelled. He tilted his head like he couldn't quite process the words. Kate whispered, "This is wrong. This is all wrong." And it was. Nothing about the man suggested he was a hardened killer, but the most dangerous people you encounter are often the most desperate. And this man was desperation personified. He marched towards us, ignoring our orders to get down. Even in that moment, a thought crossed my mind. I don't want this weighing on Kate's conscience. So when the man raised his gun, I didn't hesitate. Everything went quiet except for the sound of my firearm. Before his body even hit the ground, something wriggled deep inside me, crawling up my throat until it forced its way out. The sick feeling from hearing the man's laugh was only a cousin to the disgust and self-loathing that surged in my chest.
I giggled. It was an almost silly, light-headed laugh, like something had popped open inside, releasing a burst of inappropriate joy at the gruesome scene. I clamped my hand over my mouth, but it was too late. Kate looked at me in horror. I regained my composure, but I could feel another wave coming. "Need a moment," I mumbled as I shuffled over to the vehicle and climbed in. I cackled for 5 minutes straight before the feeling finally passed. By that point, backup had arrived. I knew, by the way Kate never took her eyes off me as she spoke to the other officers, that she was telling them everything, which was probably for the best since I couldn't get 2 words out about the incident without giggling. At first, the episodes only occurred around others. Then it happened whenever I thought of him. His blue eyes, made even bluer by the bright red of burst blood vessels. What was that look? By day 2, I knew. Terror and self-loathing mixed with pleading, begging for someone to make it stop by any means necessary. The department put me on leave. I sensed they had no plan to bring me back, even if the shooting was justified. The psychiatrist they sent me to was sympathetic at first. "Odd reactions to trauma are common," she said. "What do you see when the reactions occur?" "His body," I said, already dreading the laugh building inside me. "His eyes." I howled for 30 minutes straight, like I'd just heard the funniest thing in the world. The psychiatrist didn't schedule a follow-up. The compassion was gone as she referred me to someone more equipped and prescribed me something to calm what she called trauma-induced euphoria. The pills helped to suppress the laughs as long as I could go without speaking. Even Kate had turned away, though I think it was more from discomfort than true disgust. She was reluctant to buy into my theories of contagious laughter, but she did tell me the man's name, which was enough for me to track down his address. On day 3, I knocked on his door. His wife opened it, her eyes hollow and puffy from grief. She had no clue who I was until I tried to speak and could only let out a weak giggle. "You're the one who did it then," she said. I hung my head in shame. I felt selfish, burdening her to ease my own guilt, but I had nowhere else to go. "Come in," she said. I sat in her living room, silent, as she told me what she knew. 5 days before he died, her husband came home from the bar at 4 a.m. The next morning, she was furious. Why did it take him 2 hours to get home if they lived 15 minutes away? When he tried to explain, he started laughing. He had to write it down, she said. That was the only way he could tell me. She handed me the piece of paper. The writing was shaky, but legible. I hit someone with my car, but it wasn't my fault. I wasn't even drunk. He ran out of nowhere like he wanted to die. I don't know why this is happening. I kicked him out. Who would believe him? The way he was acting? It felt like the most messed up way to lie about cheating on your wife. She took a long drag from her cigarette. I only spoke to him once more. He called from some cheap motel. By that point, I'd seen the news about a hit and run and knew he was telling the truth about that part. He said it was a virus or a curse. He couldn't say much beyond that. Just started laughing again. Honestly, I figured he'd completely lost it until you showed up with the same thing. I didn't help him. Left him to deal with it alone. She let out a soft, embarrassed laugh. I just told him to turn himself in. I guess he did, in a way. I tried to ask a question, but could only laugh. She handed me a pad and pen. "What motel?" I wrote. "The one off 11 near the truck stop." I nodded my thanks. "Sorry," I wrote. "Me too," she said.
I'd already run out of pills by the time I got to the motel. I should have died from the dosage, but somehow I felt nothing except the discomfort of laughing steadily again. "Jesus, another one of you," the manager said. "Y'all with some kind of weird circus or something?" I suppressed the laughs as I wrote out my request to see the room the man I killed had stayed in. I paid the overdue bill, and he gave me a key.
Inside the room, pages were scattered everywhere. He'd been writing nonstop, chasing down every lead, trying to make sense of it, just as I was. He'd taped news clippings to the wall detailing 3 deaths prior to his own. The man he'd hit had been hiding after accidentally killing someone in a fistfight. That person had been involved in what was supposedly a deadly domestic dispute. 3 dead bodies, plus his now. He'd even tried to end his life without passing it on, but his notes described various failed attempts. The noose broke, the gun jammed, the pills came back up. My theory was confirmed. It was contagious. But instead of relief, I felt worse. Knowing the truth offered no help, no solutions. Only one thing seemed certain. There were always 5 days between hosts, which meant I had less than 48 hours to live if the pattern held. His final notes became impossible to read, save for a word here or there. The whole thing became intolerable. By the final night, he wasn't sleeping at all.
That's the point I'm at now. The night after the motel, I managed tiny pockets of sleep, but instantly I dream of him and wake myself laughing. Last night, I didn't sleep at all. His face is superimposed over my vision. The laughter softens, but it never stops long enough for me to rest. I keep telling myself, maybe I can push my body to the point of sleep deprivation death and stop the chain. But I know I'm not that strong, and judging from the motel notes, I doubt it would work anyway. This thing wants its next host.
None of the news outlets had noticed the chain of deaths, so I sent what the man had found to the local paper and Kate. Maybe they'll figure out a way to end it, or at least have more empathy for the next person it claims. I wasted what little time I had left looking into anything that felt even remotely related. The 1962 incident in Tanganyika, laughing cults, contagious PTSD.
I wish I'd come here sooner. When I Googled it, this place came up as somewhere with answers no one else seems to have. I didn't want to burden the man's wife, but that meeting with her was my last moment of peace. I'm hoping someone here can help me. I tried 911 and they think I'm pranking them. They've threatened to send the police if I call again, and I know what happens then. So I'm turning to you, one final, desperate effort before I get to that point. But I'm so tired. So very, very tired.
And now the 5-day cycle is almost complete. Will the truth behind this contagious laughter ever be revealed?
Let us know your theories in the comments below. If you survived this chilling tale, make sure you like the video.
Subscribe to Dark Facts for more true horror and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next nightmare.